Caitlin Saposi-Belknap and Scott Silber are on the line with us. Caitlin and Scott, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Tom. It's great to be here again.
Thank you
for having us.
Yeah, very pleased to have you with us. Scott, you're with Boulder Move to Amend. Do I have that right?
That's correct.
So tell us what's happening in Boulder today.
Well, today's the last day of our weeks-long mail-in ballot election, and the polls close at 7 p.m. And we're pretty excited in Boulder to be the second city in the United States to be able to vote on whether we support an amendment to the U.S. Constitution asserting that corporations aren't people and money isn't speech.
God bless you. That is absolutely spectacular. And Caitlin, you're the national field director for MoveToAmend.org. And, you know, I'm pitching MoveToAmend.org constantly. I don't know if you've seen all the YouTubes of all the...
We really appreciate it.
It's like become my you'd think I own stock in your organization or something. I mean, I really have nothing to do with the organization other than just I think you people are my heroes. But tell us, what is the national organization doing? What are you up to right now?
Well, Move to Amend is the national campaign to pass the constitutional amendment to abolish corporate personhood and establish that money is not speech, as Scott said. And so our strategy, because, you know, we all know that in Congress, if we're talking about a constitutional amendment, we're talking about ultimately Congress. But Congress is bought and sold by corporations. So we have a grassroots strategy and plan to get this amendment passed by working in local communities, and we have communities all over the country that are working with us to pass resolutions just like the one that they're going to pass today in Boulder to call for the amendment to drive this into Washington, D.C. from the ground up.
So today is the vote in Boulder, and it's a mail-in vote. Today is the last day, 7 o'clock tonight. You got to get your ballots to the post office before 7. If I have that right, correct me if I'm wrong, Scott.
I will correct you. Actually, it's too late to mail them in. They're due to the clerk and recorder's office.
Okay, thank you for correcting
hand.
me. Okay, so you have to physically get them in.
That's
and A, how's it looking? And Scott Silber with Boulder Move to Amend. How's it looking? A, and B, what did y'all do to make this happen in Boulder that our listeners and viewers all around the country need to be thinking about doing in their own communities?
It's looking great. I think people in our community are really excited for the opportunity to finally be able to express themselves on this issue. And thanks to the folks in Madison who passed their language first, language that we have referred to here in Colorado as the Madison language. Mm-hmm. We were able to follow suit. They voted in an election in April, and we had the opportunity to have our city council here in Boulder take the issue on, and some of the folks with Boulder Move to Amend had gotten the ear of and interest of some of the folks on city council who then moved the issue forward, and there was actually a majority of dissenters on the Boulder City Council at first. It was out of 9 people, it was 3 in support and 6 against. Mm. So we had to do our local organizing campaign here in town to work with and eventually win over a majority, and we flipped that from 3 to 6 to 6 to 3 and got the question on the ballot, the Madison language, as it was in Madison, on the Boulder ballot for our 2011 ballot, and the campaign since then has been an enormous effort from a coalition of a list of organizations that's too broad and wide to read.
Well, and the really cool bottom line about this is that whether you win or lose the election, you educated a hell of a lot of people. And although, you know, people in Boulder, get out and vote today. Physically show up and vote. Caitlin, I understand that voters in Missoula, Montana will vote on a similar initiative next week. We are heard and seen in Missoula, Montana. Tell us about that.
It'll be on the ballot next week in Missoula, and so folks are already voting absentee, and the election is on Tuesday, like it is really across the country. And we worked with city council members in Missoula to get that on the ballot as well, and so Missoula Move to Amend is running that. And if folks are interested in running campaigns in your communities, you can go to MoveToAmend.org and click on the Start or Find a Local Group or our Local Action Toolkit. We have model language for the resolution, details about how it's done. And we expect it to win in Boulder and in Missoula. In Madison, in April, the vote there was 82% in favor of the initiative.
Wow.
And in Dane County, it was also on the ballot.
Now, just
slightly different wording, and they passed it by 78%.
And just to provide some context, and again, please correct me if I have anything wrong about this, but basically no legislature and no president has ever said corporations are people and money is speech. This is purely an invention of the Supreme Court. It goes back to the early part of the 19th century, arguably, but it hit its zenith with the Citizens United ruling in January of 2010. And this doctrine has totally corrupted American politics. And because the Supreme Court has embraced it and promoted it, the only way right now that we can, the only practical way that we can undo this is by amending the Constitution of the United States to say, no, in fact, corporations are not people and money is not speech. Is that a reasonably tight and articulate articulation of it?
You're exactly right. That's why we love you. You're a perfect spokesperson.
Okay.
You totally have it.
Thank you.
And it's time that we as a country have a debate and discussion about this, because you're right. It came from the Supreme Court. It wasn't ever legislated on. And in fact, when communities have had the opportunity to say, well, what would we want in our democracy? The answer is resoundingly not corporate personhood. People should have rights, not corporations.
Well, and in fact, President Teddy Roosevelt pushed back on this. Congress pushed back on it in 1907, passing the Tillman Act that said any corporation that gives money to a politician, their officers go to prison. And, that got blown up by Citizens United, among other things. But anyhow, okay, so if you're
we want to let folks know what the ballot measure is. It's called 2H. And then if you got your ballot finally and you haven't sent it in, or you haven't walked it in yet to 33rd and Arapahoe, the ballot measure is 2H. That's what we want you to vote yes on. And everyone here at the 2H campaign wants to remind you, Tom Hartman, of the role of hero you played for us and making sure that we were educated enough to do that.
Thank you, Scott. We're flat out. Scott and Caitlin, thank you both so much for being with us. It is truly appreciated.